Welcome to Redclean, and this is another question. This is the fourth question in a row that we post on Telegram group. Now it feels to be an easy question, okay? A it's a daily, cup of tea for a radiologist to deal with the trauma cases. But still, as if I look at the result of the poll that I posted, the the answers that I got or the responses that I got from the people, they're very much, very conflicting. Like no single answer is achieving the peak. Rather, people are confused between the options, and all four options they have got nearly equal, percentage of responses. Okay, and the people are confused between the options. So just look at this image and this question basically. So this question is a 30-year-old male who has a history of RTA few hours back, and his head CT is shown below. And which of the following is a false about this? The following is false about this. So okay, so we have a patient who has a history of RTA few hours back, and now we have a CT image of this patient. Okay, preferably NCCT becomes investigation of choice in patient who is a case of head trauma. So look at the CT. Okay, first look at the CT image. So this is the CT image of this patient. Okay, and if we look closely at this image, okay, what we can clearly see that we could see an extra-axial density. Okay, and this extra-axial density appears to be hyperdense. Okay, it appears to be hyperdense, and if you will calculate the HU of this by putting the RY, that will come around 60 to 70. That suggests that it's a bleed density, and in consonance with the history of RTA, it looks like it's a biconvex extra-axial bleed density that is there. Okay, and if I that looks like a typical EDH. Okay, that is not a mystery so far. Okay, but important thing that to be considered here is that to look at the the location of this particular EDH. Now if I write if I write few points of a typical EDH that you see, okay, about EDH, that EDH is a epidural hematoma. Okay, that is that hematoma is what it's outside the dura. Hematoma is outside the dura. Okay, so now if you look at the dura, dura has basically two layers. Dura has two layers. One layer is your that is attached to the calvaria, that is your endosteal layer, and another layer is your meningeal layer, that is your meningeal layer. Okay, and when there's a formation of dural venous sinuses, so what happens that these two layers basically separate to contain a venous structure. Let's say if this is your endosteal layer and this is your meningeal layer, so they will separate. Let's say this is your region of Parks, and in the region of Parks they separate at this point to accommodate a venous sinus, let's say superior sagittal sinus in the region of Parks cerebri. So that is one thing. Now, and this is a this is your calvaria. So if I draw it with the white, okay, so this is your calvaria. This uh, yes, so this is your calvaria drawn with the red white line. Okay, this is your endosteal layer, I'm putting E there, and this is your meningeal layer. Okay, so what is the location of EDH? Location of EDH is this, that I have drawn. This is the location of EDH. This is the epidural space, that is a potential space, okay, between the calvaria and the endosteal layer, because it is extradural. Okay, and so this is the location. Now important point is that this endosteal layer, okay, this endosteal layer is attached closely to your suture lines. It's attached closely to the suture lines. So what happens closely to suture lines? So what happens that let's say if your this endosteal layer is attached, let's say this is the endosteal layer that we are seeing, and at this point, let's say this is your suture line that is going. Okay, I'm seeing a coronal section. What diagram I've drawn is in the coronal section. So suture line will be going, okay, into the screen, and let's say this is a suture line, so definitely this endosteal layer is attached to this suture line, you know, very adherently. So what will happen, let's say if you have an EDH here that is shown by green color, so this green color EDH will, due to adherent endosteal layer, it will not cross the suture line because endosteal layer is adherent. Okay, so that is one property of EDH, that characteristically it does not cross the suture line. Okay, so this is one important. Due to this, no crossing of suture line happens. Okay, so you know the location of the bleed that is shown by green outside the endosteal layer, and between the calvaria and endosteal layer, it doesn't cross the suture line. Why? Because endosteal layer is adherent. Okay, one point. Now that is why another important point is that since you know this endosteal layer is adherent to the calvaria as well, so what happens? This is what creates a, because the stripping of endosteal layer is what is difficult. That is why it creates a biconvex shape. Okay, it creates a biconvex shape. On the other hand, if you see SDH, which is concavo-convex, so the strip, because it is subdural, so it is what subdural means, it is due to, you know, it is inner to the endosteal layer. That is why what happens. So now there is no need of stripping of the tightly adherent endosteal layer. That is why it can easily seep into the edges. That is why it is concavo-convex. Now forget that SDH right now, but another important point. So we have biconvex, you know, we have biconvex extra-axial bleed density. Okay, that, you know, that tends not to cross the suture line. Okay, that is there. Now important point is that once we know this you know, basic thing about this, that if you ask me what is the source of bleed here, what is the source of bleed here? Okay, source of bleed. So source of bleed in typical EDH that we have read is what, it's your mostly, if you know, typically if you see what is the most common site of EDH, on what is the prone, no, what site is particularly prone for EDH, typically it is your Tyrion region, where you know, which is a weak region. Okay, and why? Because you know multiple bones are uniting at this particular region, and that is why it is weaker. Okay, because it's a junction, and that is why inner to Tyrion region uh, is there is a presence of artery, that is your middle meningeal artery. Okay, middle meningeal artery, and this artery gets ruptured to cause an EDH. Okay, so and typically if you see EDH are commonly associated with fractures, commonly associated with fractures. And typically you will see fractures, you know, at the site of EDH. Okay, you will see fracture. If you are seeing EDH here, you will see fracture here only. Okay, in the nearby bone. Okay, so we have Tyrion fracture that is also associated with middle meningeal artery. Okay, causing EDH. Okay, so these are the few you know, important points that we typically see, and these are the only, you know, telltale signs to identify an EDH. But things are not that easy sometimes. Okay, that you see an EDH and you know, classify it to be EDH. One more point that I would like to tell is that if you see you know, typically homogeneously hyperdense EDH, then it is definitely like this. Now one important point could be, you may see hypodense areas. Okay, okay, so if you see hypodense areas, like let's say if this is the EDH, now if you see hypodense areas like this in this EDH, what does it signify? So it signify acutely or simply ongoing bleed. It simplify ongoing bleed, that the bleed is going on there. Okay, and it gives a poor prognostic sign, because hyperacute bleed is what, hypodense on CT. Okay, so it gives a sign of ongoing bleed. Okay, now forget this thing. So this is one thing, and this particular sign is known as swirl sign. Okay, okay, now everybody knows about these features of an EDH, which everybody knows, but you know, if you look closely at this particular image, this image is special in one sense, what, that this patient has an EDH in this location. Okay, if I ask you to identify, if I ask you to identify what is the lobe, okay, we are in, what is the lobe we are in, what lobe is this? This is your temporal lobe, temporal lobe. And if you see the EDH, this EDH is in your anterior temporal lobe. Okay, anterior temporal lobe. So this location is important. Why this location is important? If you see EDH in this location, remember this thing. Till now, whatever features I told about EDH, okay, they were typical EDH. 90% of EDH behave like what I just told till now. And these EDH are known as arterial EDH. Okay. Till now, whatever information that I gave you, and you must have known that information, okay, because it's a part and parcel of a radiologist to deal with the trauma cases. So arterial EDH is what is the most common EDH, that is 90% of EDH, and those are the typical biconvex shape, okay, and no crossing of suture line, okay, association with fracture, typical these cases, okay, and severity, and since it is associated with arterial source, and also since arterial source is there, so the pressure in artery is high, that's why the development is fast to develop also. So these were the features that are, we discussed with arterial EDH. But remember this thing, that since 90% EDH are arterial, but there are 10% EDH, 10% EDH, they are venous in origin. They are venous in origin. Okay, so this is important. They are venous in origin, and there are three typical EDH that I'm going to tell now, which are venous in origin, and this image is one among them. Okay, so this anterior temporal EDH that I have shown you is a venous EDH. Okay, it's not an arterial EDH, it's a venous EDH. So it happens due to rupture of a sinus here that is present. Rupture of sinus, venous sinus. So we have a venous sinus in anterior part of the temporal lobe. I'm showing this sinus here. So this sinus is located at this location, and the sinus, name of the sinus is your sphenoparietal sinus. Sphenoparietal sinus is present in this location. There are three important venous EDH that I am going to tell. One of this is what is shown in the question, is your anterior temporal EDH. So the rupture of sphenoparietal sinus. Now try to understand thing. Now the source of bleed is a vein or a what, sinus. So the pressure in the vein is slow. So the venous EDH will be slow to develop. Slow to develop. Okay, which will cause decreased severity. That is why if you see anterior temporal lobe EDH, they are typically asymptomatic, or with mild symptoms, and which recovers, or they have a benign course basically. Okay, they have a benign course. Now this is also biconvex like your arterial EDH. So this feature is common. They will also be biconvex. Okay, they will also be biconvex. Now if you ask me, EDH, they are associated with fracture. These are also associated with fractures. So I'm gonna, among these features of arterial EDH, I'm gonna mark those features that are common with the venous EDH. Okay, that are common with the venous EDH. So biconvex feature is common. It's seen in venous EDH as well. Then association with fracture line is also important there also, because it is commonly commonly in venous EDH, fracture happens at the site of suture. Okay, because at the site of suture typically you have venous sinuses. So there is a location at the site of sutures where the fracture happens, and which causes a rupture of venous sinuses to cause venous EDH. So fracture line is there in venous EDH as well. If you ask me the severity, it is low in venous EDH, and they are slow to develop because of low venous pressure. And definitely, so severity is low, they are slow to develop. And if you ask me about the source of their, definitely by the name they are venous, so the source is vein or sinus, dural venous sinus. And typically the question is showing an anterior temporal venous EDH. The sinus that is involved is your sphenoparietal sinus that I just wrote. Now important point is that if you ask me that will the venous EDH will cross the suture line or not, definitely it can cross the suture line. Okay, definitely it can cross the suture line. Okay, because the source of the bleed is vein. So if venous sinus, now if you look at the diagram that I just draw, okay, so if you see the superior sagittal sinus, it is located inner to what, it is located what, between the meningeal and endosteal layer. Okay, and it is what, just underneath the superior sagittal suture. So what if it bleeds? It can simply what, cross the suture line. So venous EDH can cross suture line as well. Okay, which is very common with venous EDH. And so one venous EDH that I shown you is your anterior temporal lobe. Okay, venous EDH I just shown you. Okay, and what is the next? So I have an image for you for the next venous EDH, and that is your this. That is your this particular. It's quite rare. Okay, it's quite rare. So if you look at this closely, you see the bleed here. Let me use a red color. You see the bleed here. Okay, this position, and if you look closely, this is your what, this is your sagittal plane, and you see this region. What is this region? This region is known by the name of clivus. This by name of clivus. And clivus is formed by what? It is formed by a part of occiput and part of your sphenoid bone. Both they form clivus. And this clivus, so this, are you seeing an extra, it's a biconvex, typically biconvex bleed density, which is hyperdense extra-axial, and it is what, it is behind the clivus. So it's a retroclival bleed density. So this particular EDH is also what, venous in origin. And what is the source? Source is your what, clival plexus, clival venous plexus is here. Okay, so if you see bleed density, hyperdense density in your retroclival region, okay, post trauma, you should suspect of a clival EDH, and this clivus EDH is also what, venous in origin again. Now important point is that if you ask me what is the reason, if you ask me what, at up till what point this particular EDH can extend, okay, so what point this EDH can extend? So this EDH can extend, clival EDH or retroclival EDH can extend till C2 vertebra, C2 level. And what is a cause? That commonly due to trauma. What kind of trauma, if you ask me? So typically trauma is, the mode of injury is your hyperflexion or hyperextension. So hyperflexion or hyperextension injury happens, which causes what, a rupture of the these clivus venous plexus, causing venous EDH. And in association with that, there's one finding that you typically see on MR. What is that? That there is a membrane called tectorial membrane. This tectorial membrane gets ruptured, and this is a rupture of this tectorial membrane that ultimately cause the blood to seep up till C2 level, because this tectorial membrane is what, it is limiting the extent of venous plexus till what, C1. But what happens if the membrane gets ruptured? What happens? The blood starts to track up till C2, but it can track only up till C2. Okay, because below that is what, attachment of posterior longitudinal ligament. Now, okay, so this is a finding on MR. Typically, clival EDH is associated with a tectorial membrane rupture. So this was your clival EDH. Okay, next EDH that you can see that is venous in origin is your this. So this is a vertex EDH. Okay, so this is a vertex EDH. Obviously, it is involving the vertex. This is a part of your, this is your vertex. And what will the sinus affected? What will the sinus affected? So typically, that what sinus we have here is your superior sagittal sinus. Okay, and as you can clearly see in this particular type of venous EDH, it is crossing the suture line. It is crossing suture line. Crossing the suture line. Okay, and it tends to buckle. It's, whenever there is an extra axial bleed density like this, it tends to buckle the gray white matter. So there's a buckling of gray and white matter. Similarly, it is also buckling, but underneath this is superior sagittal sinus. So it buckles superior sagittal sinus as well. So these are, three types of EDH, venous EDH that I shown you. So there are 10% of EDH which are venous in origin, and that's why when we go back to the question that we were discussing, now look at the options. Now you can clearly answer it. Okay, so what type of EDH we saw was a venous EDH. So whatever options we are gonna look for, we are gonna look for the right statements about venous EDH. So it's a biconvex extraaxial bleed density suggestive of EDH. Definitely this option is right. This option is a correct option. It's a biconvex, it's extraaxial, it is bleed density, it is suggestive of EDH. Correct. It occurred due to rupture of venous sinus. Definitely it occurred due to rupture of what type of venous sinus? Sphenoparietal. Sphenoparietal venous sinus. So this statement is also correct. Now bleeds of this type cannot cross suture line. Now this would have been true if it was an arterial EDH, but definitely it can cross suture line. So this statement is wrong. This statement is wrong. Bleeds of this type can cross the suture line, and such bleeds are commonly associated with calvarial fracture. Definitely this statement is true for all types of EDH. All types of EDH are typically associated with the calvarial fracture. Okay, remember this EDH is, if you see all the extraaxial bleed densities or typical primary effects of the CNS trauma, typically EDH are rare. Okay, you commonly see SDH more common than EDH, but if you see EDH, you commonly always try to find fracture there, because EDH are typically associated with fracture, whether venous or whether arterial. And in venous EDH, typically the fracture line will always be there, and it typically crosses your suture line. That's why underneath the suture is a sinus which gets ruptured to release blood. Okay, so this statement is also true. So the only false statement here is what, that these bleeds of this type cannot cross a suture line, and that is what is a wrong answer, and that's what is asked in the question. So the false statement is this. Okay, and this becomes the answer of this question. So thanks a lot for your attention, and keep subscribing this channel. Okay, and keep showing your support. Thanks.